The Divine Law of Cure by Warren Felt Evans. Preface. No intelligent observer of the signs of the times can fail to notice among philosophical minds a marked reaction against the dominant scientific materialism of the past century, and a tendency to return to a more spiritual view of human nature and the world at large. Idealism, which has always had a strong hold upon the deepest thinkers of the world from Plato downward, is again coming into prominence. And many of the leading scientists of the day exhibit an inclination to adopt it as furnishing the most satisfactory explanation of the phenomena of nature. The system of Berkeley is undergoing a resurrection, and, in connection with the spiritual philosophy of Swedenborg, will have more influence than ever in shaping the metaphysical systems of the future, and in giving direction to the current of human thought. The present volume of the All This is an attempt to construct a theoretical and practical system of phrenopathy, or mental cure, on the basis of the idealistic philosophy of Berkeley, Fichte, Schelling, and Hegel. Its fundamental doctrine is that to think and to exist are one and the same, and that every disease is the translation into a bodily expression of a fixed idea of the mind and a morbid way of thinking. If by any therapeutic device you remove the morbid idea, which is the spiritual image after the likeness of which the body is formed, you cure the malady. The work lays no claim to originality except in the practical application of idealism to the cure of the diseases of mind and body. It is the culmination of a lifelong study of human nature, into which the previous volumes of the author may be viewed as introductory. That its teachings will be fully accepted by all who peruse it is not to be expected. That there is a large and constantly increasing class of minds who are prepared to receive its doctrines, as a dry soil drinks in the vernal rain, he fully believes. To their thoughtful consideration the volume is dedicated, with the sincere prayer that they may find in it something more certain and satisfactory than the current materialistic systems of medication have been able to furnish. Part 1. The relation of the divine life to human life, or true religion and health. There is one God and Father of all, who is above all, and through all, and in you all. He is not far from every one of us, for in him we live, and are moved, and have our being. An indispensable requisite to a blessed life is that this living religion in us should at least go so far as to convince us entirely of our own nothingness in ourselves, and of our being only in God and through God. That we should at least feel this relationship continually and without interruption, and that, even though it should not be expressed either in thought or language, it should yet be the secret spring, the hidden principle, of all our thoughts, feelings, emotions, and desires. Fichte's Popular Works, page 437. Chapter 1. The True Idea of Religion. In discussing the subject of religion and health, and the relation of the one to the other, it is necessary that we form some definite conception of what religion is, and what we mean by health. Religion is certainly not a mere intellectual state, the belief of a creed however orthodox, or an assent to any number of theological propositions. It does not consist in outward action, the performance of the outward mechanism of forms and ceremonies, however grand and imposing, or however humble and simple, from the Roman Catholic ceremonial in the Gothic cathedral down to the forms, or one of forms, in the meeting house of the Society of Friends. I do not affirm that either of these elements or both, the intellectual assent to some form of belief and the practice of some outward worship, may not enter into it and be most intimately associated with it. But they constitute no necessary part of its nature and essence. They may be varied in form, like the colors of the chameleon, and are continually changing, while religion remains the same. It is very certain that there may be many gradations of religious intensity in men whose creed is the same, and their outward forms of worship identical. The intellectual state belonging to religion is intuitional, and arises from feeling, and is not merely an act of the logical consciousness. This feeling, when left to itself, like all other feelings, will spontaneously create its outward and appropriate forms of expression. There are two definitions of religion by two of the religious thinkers of Germany, who knew from their own consciousness what they were saying, both having been educated among the Moravians. These two definitions, when combined, give us a clear conception of the essential nature of religion. Jacobi, who was first to see the full worth and signification of feeling in the domain of philosophy, defines religion to be a faith, resting upon feeling, in the reality of the supersensual and ideal. The other is the definition of Schleiermacher, than whom no man ever pursued with greater penetration of mind and earnestness of spirit the pathway of a divine philosophy, and he places the essence of religion in the absolute feeling of dependence, and of a conscious relationship to God, originating immediately from it. When this feeling rises to a conscious union with God and to an intuitive perception of the spiritual truths that underlie it and are naturally associated with it, we have religion in its highest form, its divine reality. For religion is the conscious reunion of the soul with God after having been separated from Him by the disjunctive agency of sin, or it is recovering the lost consciousness that our life is inseparable from that of the divine being and is identical with His. If religion does not bind us to God, it is superficial and worthless. It is valuable only so far as it does this. Sectarian creeds and external and fixed forms of worship are no more a necessary part of religion than warts, tumors, and fungus growths are of the human body. These may seem to have a connection with the body, but they are no essential part of it, and they can be removed, and the patient be all the better for it in the religious history of every age and country. We find a certain class of minds who are impatient of ceremonial forms, technical distinctions, and dry, dogmatic formulas, and who have followed the yearnings of their own hearts for something better, and have yielded themselves to the instinctive impulses of the soul to rise from the shadow to the substance, from the sign to the thing signified, from the human to the divine, the transient to the enduring, and from the non-essential to the essential in religion. Christianity, when properly apprehended, will meet the wants and satisfy the spiritual cravings of all such minds. Its constant aim is to unite the sundered link between man and God, and to bring the finite and infinite into a conscious harmony and felt oneness. Religion may, and actually does, exist in 1,000 different forms and degrees. The highest development of religious thought and feeling is that of a Christian pantheism, not the cold, intellectual system of Spinoza, but one nearer to that of the warm and loving Fichte, who exhibited the blessedness of a life in God. The divine inspiration and wisdom of Jesus the Christ is seen in His placing religion in something above and beyond all ceremonial observances, and in teaching that the highest style of religion is found in the consciousness of God within, the intuitive perception of the life of God in the soul of man. The system of Jesus and of Buddha here find a point of contact and flow together. The Buddhist nirvana, or ideal conception of the summum bonum, the supreme good, was not originally a state of annihilation, which is no state at all, much less one of happiness, but was rather the rest of the soul in its complete union with God, and its harmony with the divine life. I cannot avoid this view, although Max Muller, in his Science of Religion, has seemed to prove to the contrary. It is that condition of union with the Godhead which Jesus so often affirmed of Himself, not a mathematical, but a spiritual oneness, which does not destroy the feeling of our individuality. It is that for which the mystics of all ages have longed. It was sought as a realization of their highest ideal of a state of blessedness by Eckhart, Tolle, Rusbrock, Bayman, Guyon, and others. This is the essence of all religion, for a system that does not unite divinity and humanity docs not answer to the fundamental idea of the word. In the evolution of the religious life of mankind, we see what is the coming stage of its advancement. It will be the revelation of God in the individual soul. This is a stage of the religious consciousness to which the world is being honed by influences which it did not originate and which cannot be suppressed. All genuine science and philosophy are drifting in that direction, and all church organizations will follow in their wake. A spiritual science of religion, the philosophy of the relations of the finite mind to the infinite being, of matter to spirit, and of the body to the soul in man, will be the last to be worked out in the progress of human knowledge. But when it is elaborated according to the law of evolution, it will change the life of the world and usher in a new and higher dispensation of Christianity. The great mistake of men is, they seek without for what they can only find within. Within the depths of the soul are infinite spiritual capabilities and possibilities. In every human mind is the hidden germ of an endless development. God dwells in man, and the body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. The divine element in our nature is not there as an idle guest or spectator, but as an ever-operative force. God's activity is coextensive with His presence. We cannot separate from the idea of His presence that from of causation. The divine being is the call causa causarum, the prime cause that lies back of all secondary causes. This doctrine was introduced into philosophy by an Arabian and a Mohammedan. Says Sir William Hamilton, as far as I have been able to trace it, this doctrine was first promulgated toward the commencement of the 12th century by Al-Ghazal of Baghdad, a pious Mohammedan philosopher, who not undeservedly obtained the title of the Imam of the world. Al-Ghazal did not deny the reality of causation, but he maintained that God was the only efficient cause in nature, and that second causes are not properly causes, but only occasions of the effect. The subject was much discussed by the philosophers of subsequent ages, but the most distinguished advocate of the doctrine of Algazel was Malebranche. He believed and taught that God was the only active force in the universe, and even in the body. What we call second were only the occasions on which the divine power acted. There is an important substratum of intuitional and logical truth in this view. A cause is that without which something we call an effect could not exist or take place. But can anything exist without God? If not, then all secondary causes are but effects, and must be referred back to the great first cause. Some minds have so vivid a consciousness of God as to lose sight of everything else. At least everything else is thrown into the background. Such was the mind of Fichte, Schelling, and Hegel. And this was emphatically true of Spinoza, who has been misunderstood and misrepresented. Novalis characterizes him as the God-intoxicated man. The essence, or fundamental idea of his philosophy is contained in a single sentence of his writings, which is certainly in harmony with the Christian system. Its infidelity consists in giving a more intense reality to God than most people have done, but not more than Jesus himself did. God is permanently resident in nature, and not a power outside of it that has occasionally acted upon it. We have seen in what has been said above that religion is a conscious union with God. All religions, however imperfect, are an instinctive seeking after this, and, in a measure, accomplish it. But it is a self-evident truth that what is the source of life must be the primal cause and fountain of health. The efficiency of any remedial agency must, in its last analysis, be referred to a divine power and causation. But a soul, made in the image of God, may come into vital communication and fellowship with God, the only life. This is, at the same time, both religion and health in their highest idea. As religion, in its inmost essence, consists in an intuitive consciousness of a divine life in the soul, so health is the divine life within us coming to free activity and expression in all our voluntary powers.